It's Dean the General from Three of a Kind. Gonna finish up Rolling Stones tier list, compilations, and live albums. Gonna start with a brief look at what London Records put out for North America. England's newest hitmakers, 12 by 5, Rolling Stones Now, Out of Our Heads, December's Children, and Everybody's. These were comprised of tracks recorded between 1963 and 1965. Big hits, High Tide and Green Grass, along with Through the Past Darkly, were compilations, mainly of single tracks. The US version of Aftermath took out 4 key songs, while adding Paint It Black. Got Live If You Want It was mostly live, and is pretty dismal overall, although a curio worth having. The American version of Between the Buttons substituted a couple of songs for Let's Spend the Night Together and Ruby Tuesday. Flowers was released in North America in 1967, taken mostly from the British versions of Aftermath and Between the Buttons, although it had 3 songs that had already been released on LP in America. Stone Age was released by Decca in the UK. It pretty much scrapes the bottom of the barrel. Hot Rocks 1964 to 1971, and more Hot Rocks, Big Hits, and Fazed Cookies were released by Abco Records. They are unofficial compilation. However, they do feature some tracks that Americans had probably not heard before, plus had some really good photos. Made in the Shade and Metamorphosis were released on the same day in 1975. The latter features many unreleased tracks, although only about half of them are decent. Love You Live was taken from performances between 1975 and 1977. It is definitely worth checking out at least once. Sucking in the 70s is another pretty interesting compilation, although most of the inclusions are edits or tracks that had already been released on album. Still Life is a very underrated album taken from their 1981 American tour. Rewind 1971 to 1984 is another useless compilation unless you don't have all these songs already. In 1989, Singles Collection, The London Years, was a pretty amazing look at their early history. Jump Back, The Best of the Rolling Stones, was released 4 years later. It is pretty similar to Rewind in that all tracks would have already been owned by most fans. Strip was a letdown, although the concept is definitely intriguing. It does feature a couple of songs that the band had never released before. The Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus was finally released in 1996. Watching it is a lot better than listening to most of these pretty bad performances, although The Who shine. Another live album, No Security, was released 2 years later and is even worse than Stripped, if that's actually possible. In 2004, the band released live licks taken from their tour celebrating 40 years together. A year later, Rarities 1971 to 2003 came out and features several unreleased tracks, although those are not actual rarities. 2008 saw the release of Shine a Light, soundtrack to a pretty great movie about them, directed by Martin Scorsese. In 2017, the band released On Air, comprised of live tracks recorded before 1966. A lot of them are disappointing, especially compared to the studio versions. 2012 saw the release of Grr, a compilation album with a couple of new tracks. 5 years later, El Mocambo 1977 was finally released. It stands as their best live album unless you include Get Your Yayas Out. Finally, we're going to look at a bootleg, More Stone Than You'll Ever Be. This features a lot of rejected tracks along with some live material that would be officially released in 2017. Check out Three of a Kind for videos on pop and rock music for the most part, and thanks for watching.